Oh, just not feeling like I used to. Whew, getting old. Man, if I could only be young again. These are things I used to say to myself in my early 20s. Now that I'm in my early 30s, if I only knew. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I wish I would have known in my early 20s regarding what it's like to be in your early 30s. And in doing so, hopefully positively benefit you regardless of the age you're at right now. But you gotta focus. So this entire video really revolves around one huge lie that I wish I did not believe so greatly when I was in my early 20s. And that is, when you reach age 25, thereon after, your physical and mental fitness begin to degrade drastically. So young buck Luke in his early 20s, thinking he's only got a few years left before he reaches age 25, I better blast the fitness as fast as I can, learning everything as fast as I can before I run out of time, right? Live fast, die pretty, that kind of mentality in the early 20s. Now, being in my early 30s, I know based on my experience that for me, this was absolutely not true at all. In fact, what's frustrating is I actually feel better now in my early 30s, both physically and mentally, than when I did when I was in my early 20s. But here's where it all went wrong, and it all went wrong based on this lie. Old injuries that were untreated and not rehabbed properly, not fully brought to recovery, have become chronic problems. Unfortunately, I ignored a lot of other injuries and imbalances back in the day at the time because of this impatience, because of this impending doom of turning 25. Let's ignore these little pinches and imbalances because we can fight through it now. And, you know, when we hit age 25, it's all over anyways, which is just totally not true.
And I kept hitting my elbow over and over again with no pad. My bursa sac swelled up one day when I was sitting in class. And, like, I put it on my desk, and it hurt when I hit the desk. It just hurt. I was like, ah.
But not knowing what I know now, and that is those little injuries and imbalances that were left untreated would eventually become worse and worse because they were untreated, and those imbalances would also lead to more injuries later on, which would then negatively affect me in my early 30s. A great yet unfortunate example of this is my chronic shoulder injury and chronic groin injury that I endured early on in my early to mid 20s that I never really fully rehabbed and brought to 100%. I just kind of pushed it off to the side and ignored. And now that I'm in my early 30s, movements that I used to be able to do, like the flare for example, I still know I have the strength and coordination, flexibility, mobility to do those moves, but the pain that is inflicted on me from my older injuries that have gotten worse because they were left untreated has left this movement right now nearly impossible to do, which is super frustrating and somewhat depressing. But that's why I'm sharing this with you now. If you have any minor injuries or imbalances that you feel like you should probably rehab, fix, and work on, and you're in your early 20s or at any age, my suggestion would be don't neglect those, work on those, strengthen the area back up, and take your time and be patient. You have time, don't rush, because rushing might lead you to running out of time faster. So another thing I wish I would have known greater in my early 20s, now that I'm in my early 30s, is those unhealthy lifestyle choices from your early 20s compound and affect you greater into your early 30s. Unhealthy lifestyle choices primarily being a poor diet, poor sleep, and too much stress. Not only that, but from my experience, repetition of these bad habits make me more susceptible to fall back into these addictions, thus being more easily negatively affected by these now than I was earlier. So for one concept I love to always just talk about, that is, you are what you eat. Your body builds itself based on the nutrients you put inside of it. If you're constantly giving your body junk throughout your early 20s, it's going to compound and you're going to feel like junk by your early 30s. Also, the same thing with sleep. Your body does most of its repair and recovery while you sleep. Now, because of increasing responsibilities and stress that tend to be a common denominator throughout most of our early, mid, late 20s into early 30s, This can lead us to a lack of sleep, you know, working long hours, being more knowledgeable about things, so you're being more stressed out about things. More stress equals lack of sleep, and more stress can also equal other negative effects, all compounding and affecting you more negatively over time. So my suggestion to you based on my experience is, regardless of where you're at right now, if you're in your early 20s, if you're in your early 30s, if you're much older than 30, it doesn't matter, because all of these poor choices will compound, which means positive lifestyle choices will compound as well. Eat a healthier diet, try to get more consistent sleep, and try as hard as you can to reduce that stress. Now, regarding these lifestyle choices, one of them that I am so glad that I got a hold of in my early 20s that positively affected me now that I'm in my early 30s is having good nutrition. For the most part, throughout my 20s and in my early 30s, with a few slip-ups here and there, obviously, I feel like from the inside out, this has played one of the biggest roles in just keeping me physically and mentally fit for this period of time. Now, I know I'm only in my early 30s, but because I've had such a positive experience with having good nutrition, that has only reinforced the fact that I should continue eating healthy, even healthier if I can, going on from here, because I've only gotten positive benefits from eating healthy. Only positive benefits. Now, unfortunately for me, sleep and managing stress haven't always been my strong points, and I feel like I could have done better in my early mid-20s, but I am planning to get a better hold on that now, so going forward we can maximize those 3 pillars instead of just 1, and hopefully get some positive results going into the next 10 years. So the final big noticeable change that I've really realized from my early 20s to my early 30s regarding physical and mental performance would be changes in priorities and what is important. So what is an important goal for me to achieve? Now, I know this is different for all of us. There are times in life where priorities change, and because of these changes, that can affect one's physical and mental fitness goals, which is neither bad nor good. It's just a change in priorities. And the point of this is, sometimes, you know, if you're in your early 30s, it isn't necessarily because you're physically or mentally incapable of doing something you could do in your early 20s, but it is because your priorities have changed and you're maybe not as interested in doing it. You don't have the drive to do it because you just don't care, or it's just not important to you. It's not necessarily like it's just you can't do it. It's just like you don't want to do it, right? Your priorities are different. I guess it could be hopeful because it is basically saying if all of a sudden your priorities shift towards something you wanted in your early 20s, when you're in your early 30s, it might not be as impossible as you think. So there you go. Do you just start to drastically decline and get worse and worse after age 25? From my experience, no, but untreated, accumulating old injuries, poor lifestyle choices, and changes in priorities can affect that outcome from the early 20s to the early 30s. With that being said, I am just skimming the surface of this topic. If you want me to talk about it more regarding maybe like certain techniques, methods, supplementation, experiments that I've tried in the past to try to like reverse the aging process, let me know. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned. I have more videos coming out. Peace. You all have a good one. I will see you all in the next video.